Good morning to all and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Today's editorial is all about the brutal Israeli attack. Many Palestinians got killed, many Palestinians got injured. It's all about that. And let us start the session with editorial vocabulary. Today I have brought about 12 words. Some of these words are familiar. There are a few new and important words. The very first word we have got many a time. Allies. Allies singular, allies plural. Obviously, part of speech is a noun, one that is associated with another as a helper. But actually, here you have to think in terms of one country associated with another country, especially at the time of the war. It goes with war. It also goes with elections. These combinations are very important. At the time of the war, at the time of elections, we use ally singular, allies plural. Is a video on? Stampede, we have got after a gap of almost couple of years. Part of speech noun. Stampede happens usually at religious congregations and also important meetings. A wild headlong rush means going in one direction. Good morning. Am I audible and is the video on? Thank you. Thanks for the response. Stampede, a wild, uncontrolled, headlong rush means in the same direction. All the people try to escape in the same direction or flight. There are two terms you have to know. One is fight, the other one, flight. Whenever we are exposed to a particular dangerous situation, all the animals they take either fight or flight mechanism. All the big cats, the predators, lions, tigers, they always fight. But human beings, snakes, almost all the animals take the flight mechanism. Fight or flight mechanism means they try to escape. A wild, headlong rush of flight of frightened people in this context, obviously, Palestinians. Outrage also we have got many a time, part of speech noun, an extremely strong reaction of anger, shock, indignation. Indignation, an important word. You're angry because of the feeling that you have been treated unfairly. It is known as indignation. And testimony, an important word, part of speech noun, a spoken or written statement that something is true. Testimonials means what? You say something is true. Here you can think of someone makes a mistake and escapes punishment. Then we can say go scot free. But why that one here? A spoken or written statement that something is true, especially one given in a court of law or the act of giving such a statement. When you say something is true, that is known as a testimonial, an important word, part of speech noun. And brutal, we have got many a time. Bank exams also, they have given many a time. Brutal attack, brutal massacre, brutal killings. Typical combinations, part of speech adjective. Cruel, violent, and completely without feelings. Here you can also think of the word savage. Very good, outrageous, furious, anger, indignation, resentment, wonderful. Rajshekhar. Indiscriminate also we have got many a time, part of speech adjective. And please listen to the vocabulary. Indiscriminate adjective, done at random or without careful judgment. Please listen to the analysis. Don't ask off the track questions. That's a request from my side. It will be a distraction for me. I'm doing vocabulary. Try to respond based on that. Don't ask new questions, off the track questions. Indiscriminate, part of speech adjective, done at random or without careful judgment. Without thinking, you try to attack someone, that is known as indiscriminate attack. Cram goes with everyday English, part of speech verb, and completely fill a place or container. Usually it goes with a place, sometimes with a container, to the point of overflowing. Here you can also say jam packed. No, no, it is not for you, Manasa. It is for Jaipal Reddy. Apartheid, you have to be careful with pronunciation. Here it is not der sound, it is a ter sound. Apartheid, we have got many a time. Part of speech noun, a system under which people of different races were kept separate by law. It is nothing but a policy where a particular race is considered superior, a particular race is considered inferior. Then we say apartheid. Genocide, bank exams have given many a time an important word, the intentional destruction of a people in whole or in part. But generally, I give the meaning for genocide, killing of killing of people of a particular race or community. It can be a race, it can be a community. People of a particular race are killed, then we use the word genocide. Side means a suffix kill. Genocide, killing people of a particular race or community. Calamity also we have got many a time. Usually it goes with natural disasters, we use the word calamity. An event causing great and often sudden damage or distress, a disaster. Here you have to recollect words like calamity, disaster, mishap, and also catastrophe. All these are synonyms. Famine, an important word, not famine, famine. Extreme scarcity of food. Usually this happens whenever no rains for a long term. We use the word dry spells, and also we use the word drought. That time people experience famine, an important word. And ambivalence, ambi means a two, ambiguous, not clear, vague. And ambivalence, part of speech noun, the state of having two opposing feelings at the same time. You have positive feelings and negative feelings. That is known as ambivalence. Here you should also recollect the word paradoxical, also the word irony. They all mean the same. Exactly. These are the words. Now let us go to the editorial and ask the question, what is this editorial about? Very unfortunate incident in Palestinian areas, Gaza area. The editorial is about Israel's brutal and indiscriminate attacks. Brutal, killing someone in a cruel manner, savage manner, indiscriminate, without any being using any rationality, at random, resulting in significant, important civilian casualties. Here, casualties means deaths, displacement, and a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Because of the attack by Israeli soldiers, this brutal and indiscriminate attack, something happened, not one thing, three things happened. One, civilian casualties. Hundreds of Palestinians died. Hundreds of Palestinians got injured. Displacement, they lost their homes. And humanitarian crisis because there is a famine situation. What skills are required to understand this editorial? At the outset, this is the fourth or fifth editorial I'm doing related to the present scenario situation in Gaza and the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Background knowledge is required because already we have done so many times, they have been writing. Understanding the historical and geopolitical context of the Israeli Palestinian conflict, the role of Hamas, and relevant events. Ah, very good, Triple Sundari, I appreciate. Relevant events leading up to the editorial. All this background information is required. Political awareness, awareness of international relations, political dynamics, and the positions of different countries and leaders in the conflict. What is the stand taken by the Western countries? Stand taken by communist countries? Stand taken by socialist countries? That awareness is also important. Geopolitical awareness, understanding the involvement of various nations, including the United States, in the conflict and the impact on the situation. This is also very important. Global affairs knowledge, awareness of international organizations like the UN and their roles in addressing conflicts and humanitarian crises. Here, very good. Tripur Sundari has written singular crisis, plural crisis. Have a look at the comment box and you can have a look at those words. Those are nouns of Latin or Greek origin. Nouns of Latin or Greek origin do not take S or ES. The spelling changes completely. For example, phenomenon, phenomena, criterion, criteria. And there's a list over here. Have a look. What is the tone of this editorial? Because it is about a brutal attack, it has to condemn the attack. The tone of this editorial is strongly critical, criticizing, and condemnatory. It condemns, obviously. Anyone has to condemn. How does it start? Bloody Thursday. Here, bloody means too much of, too many deaths, too much of gushing of blood. Bloody Thursday means too many killings on Israel's war and the situation in Gaza. But what is the main idea of this editorial? Israel's allies, the countries which are with Israel, cannot avoid blame. They have to take the blame for the situation in Gaza. They cannot avoid the blame or the accusation or the allegation. They have to take, they're bound to take based on for means because of the situation in Gaza. All of them are responsible, the editorial says. And any editorial I have been telling you guys begins with a particular written based on a particular stimulus, a particular event. This sentence is about that, the stimulus, the event that triggered, and based on that, this editorial has been written. In the early hours of February 29th, Palestinians gathered in Gaza City on hearing that trucks carrying food deliveries were arriving. These civilians, Palestinians, heard something. They heard that trucks carrying food deliveries were arriving. Obviously, because of that, they tried to gather at one place and they gathered. But something negative happened over there. When they rushed towards the trucks, all these people, 1,000 plus, in anticipation of getting food deliveries, rushed towards the trucks. But unfortunately, Israeli troops thought these 1,000 plus Palestinians, they may cause some trouble. Based on that assumption, Israeli troops opened fire. Open fire means start shooting, as they thought the hungry Palestinians posed a threat. It was only an assumption. Palestinians were hungry and they were quite happy, and in the sense they wanted the food, they were rushing towards the food deliveries. A rush towards something, you have to remember one important idiomatic expression. What is it? Make a beeline, a rush for something. And Israeli soldiers, with the assumption they may pose a threat, opened fire means started shooting. Gaza's health authorities say at least, say reporting verb is in present, tenses don't change, say at least 112 Palestinians were killed and over 700. Look at the numbers. Based on the assumption, 112 Palestinians were killed and over 700 injured. There's an important sentence pattern because in the exam, not easy to handle. You may get a sentence like this in the exam under error location. Here, what happens? There are two clauses. Palestinian 112 Palestinians were killed and 700 injured. Two clauses. Both the clauses we have a plural subject. Palestinians plural, and again here plural Palestinians. Because the subject in both the clauses plural, we don't have to repeat the plural verb in the second clause. No need to. But imagine a situation where the first clause, the noun is in the plural, it's a plural noun. In the second clause, it is a singular noun. Then in the second clause, we have to use a singular verb. That is very important, not easy under pressure. Gaza's health authorities say at least 112 Palestinians were killed and over 700 injured in the subsequent stampede. Stampede that followed. Stampede usually happens. Imagine there's a religious place, a temple, or a function is going on, a big hall, and suddenly something goes wrong. Either someone says there's a bomb, or someone says there's a snake, or something that is dangerous. Then all the people go in a particular direction. Headlong means in one direction. and only one exit. Then some people may fall, others may walk over them, run over them. That results in suffocation, and many people may die. Stampede, a very dangerous situation. In the subsequent stampede, which triggered this particular event or incident, triggered global outrage, global anger, and calls for demands an international probe investigation. International probe. Obviously, this incident is a testimony, to say something is true, to everything that went wrong with Israel's brutal, indiscriminate attack on the defenseless Palestinians. They were civilians, defenseless, and it is a testimony to everything that went wrong. Based on this, Israeli soldiers will be blamed, and they cannot deny the blame, they cannot escape the blame. This incident is a testimony to everything that went wrong with Israel's brutal, indiscriminate attack on the defenseless Palestinians. The war, and now it provides a background information. The war, which started with Hamas's October 7 attack in Israel, has already turned present perfect much of the Gaza Strip into a pile of rubble. A pile of rubble usually goes with a building. Imagine a building has been demolished or pulled down. There's one important phrasal verb. A particular building has been demolished or pulled down, then you see a pile of rubble. Now, the editorial says, and it's a fact also, the Gaza Strip, that particular piece of land, has been turned into a pile of rubble. And what is the negative impact of the attack by Hamas on October 7th and subsequent to that, the Israeli attack? Over 30,000 people, most of them women and children, have been killed, present perfect passive voice, and 70,000 wounded by Israeli troops. More than 90% of the Gaza's population of 2.4 million have been displaced. More than 90%, that is phenomenal, huge, of Gaza's population of 2.4 million have been displaced, and whoever they have lost their homes. That's what it means. According to the UN World Food Programme, Gaza is suffering from the worst level of child malnutrition. No food supplies, obviously, it results in malnutrition. In this context, especially child malnutrition in the world, and is headed towards going in the direction of famine, scarcity of food. Most of the enclaves of population, the Gaza Strip, are crammed into the refugee camps. Whenever there is a war, whenever there is a disaster, whenever there is a calamity, people are evacuated. Immediately, they are evacuated. And you have to recollect one important evacuate shift. And sometimes what happens, they work on war footing, work on evacuate people on war footing. Means immediately they try to work day and night. Most of the enclaves of population are crammed into the refugee camps. A lot of people, and they are shifted, evacuated to refugee camps, but too many people, that results in cramming, crammed into the refugee camps of southern Gaza with hardly any essentials. No food supply, no essentials are supplied. The hospital system is on the verge of collapse, on the brink of, another important expression, on the brink of, about to, means what? About to collapse. And the powerful nations are just watching. What are the powerful nations doing when all this is unfolding, happening? And the powerful nations are just watching as one of the deadliest man made calamities of the 21st century is unfolding. One of the, then we have to use a singular verb. One of the deadliest man made calamities, plural noun, of the 21st century is unfolding. They're not doing anything. Israel has successfully turned Gaza into a bombed out enclave of death, misery, and hunger. Israel has been bombing ever since Hamas attacked on October 7th. Israel has been attacking civilians and terrorists as well. Based on that, has successfully turned Gaza into a bombed out enclave of death, misery, and hunger, but it is still far from meeting any of its objectives. Unfortunately, it has been attacking, but till date, so far, far from meeting any of its objectives. What is the main objective? To root out the terrorists from the region, but they are not successful, which includes, this is also an important sentence because it is still far from meeting any of its objectives of praise, which includes any singular, which includes, that is also important. The dismantling of Hamas and the release of hostages. So far, they could not. If international public opinion was largely in favor of Israel on October 7th, all these incidents, based on these events or incidents, the international community respond. We say international public opinion. On October 7th, when Hamas attacked the innocent Israelis, the public opinion, international public opinion, was in favor of Israel. If international public opinion was largely in favor of Israel on October 7th, today there is groundswell, increase of anger against its conduct of the war. The way it has been conducting war, people are not happy. And groundswell of anger, many people are angry. South Africa took Israel to the international court, and what are the implications? I've done one editorial on this. South Africa took Israel to the International Court of Justice, accusing it of apartheid against Palestinians, discrimination against Palestinians. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, Brazil's president, says Israel is carrying out, executing genocide, killing of people of a particular race or community. Several Western cities have seen massive protests. Public in Western cities are protesting, but not those who are in power. Though their governments remain spectators. Those in power, the governments remain spectators, but the common man in the street is protesting. Despite global anger, entire world is angry. Despite global anger, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his cabinet colleagues somehow made outrageous, very angry, makes you very angry, outrageous comments about expelling Palestinians from their territories, managed to continue the war. In spite of all this, Israelis managed to continue the war without facing any real consequences. No immediate or any real consequences in spite of the protest or in spite of the anger. What is the reason behind? Mainly because of the support from the United States and the West. They have the support from the West and the US especially. To substantiate that statement, the Biden administration has repeatedly vetoed. Veto means a special power where you can make a particular decision taken by a body, you can nullify that decision. Vetoed UN Security Council resolutions that called for a ceasefire in Gaza and continues to supply weapons to Israel. Two things here. The UN Security Council resolution that called for demanded a ceasefire in Gaza that was vetoed by the US. That is one thing, not acceptable. And the other one, it continues to supply weapons to Israel. Even that is not acceptable. President Joe Biden, a Democrat, who once said his foreign policy would be centered around human rights, should give up this moral ambivalence. Biden talked about human rights, but unfortunately, right now, what is going on in Israel, not in favor of human rights, against violation of human rights. Based on that, should give up, quit. This moral ambivalence means a paradoxical stand, two positive and negative opinions, and be ready to use real pressure on his closest ally, that is Israel. This war should be brought to end immediately and aid, help allowed into Gaza without any ifs and buts. This is an important expression. Without any ifs and buts means without any conditions. How does the editorial end? The war should be brought to immediate end, obviously, and also help should be allowed to into Gaza without any conditions. That's all about this editorial. Now let us go to the questions based on this editorial to improve your comprehension skill. The first one, what is the primary criticism leveled against Israel in the editorial? Lack of military response, indiscriminate and brutal attacks on Palestinians, failure to dismantle Hamas, humanitarian aid restrictions. Easy to answer, should not be that difficult. Indiscriminate and brutal attacks on civilians, Palestinians, innocent Palestinians. Very good. What is the main consequence of the conflict mentioned in the editorial? Main consequence, diplomatic success for Israel, genocide accusations against Palestine, hold this one, humanitarian crisis in Gaza, hold this also, formation of new international alliances. The main here, main consequence is humanitarian crisis. The crisis right now, heading towards a famine, humanitarian crisis. Answer is a C. How does the editorial characterize the international response to the conflict? What is the opinion of the editorial regarding international response, especially response of the governments of the West and obviously the USA? Overwhelming support for Israel, limited engagement from powerful nations, immediate ceasefire calls from major nations, strong condemnation and massive protests globally. It is not about the governments, it is about international response. No, no. Had it been about the Durgarao has got it right. It is not C, it is D. Look at the question carefully. How does the editorial characterize the international response? Not from the governments, international response, the public, strong condemnation and massive protest globally. Answer is D. What role does editorial suggest the United States plays in the continuation of the conflict? Vetoing UN Security Council resolutions, support for Hamas, providing humanitarian aid to Gaza, urging Israel to cease hostilities. So, what role does Israel suggest the United States plays in the continuation of the conflict? Yes, yes, it is D. No, no, fourth one is not C. What role does editorial suggest the United States plays in the continuation of the conflict? Providing humanitarian aid to Gaza. No, that has nothing to do with the US. It is a general thing. It is not support for Hamas. Suggest, what does it suggest? Suggest the US plays. What role does it play? Vetoing UN Security Council resolutions. That is a role played by the US. It is not suggesting US. It is suggesting the US, what role the US plays in continuation of the conflict. Should play is different, place is different. Imagine here, what role does editorial suggest the USA should play? Then the answer will be C or D. But here that is not the question. What is the editorial's main call to action for President Joe Biden? Increase military support for Israel, continue the current stance on the conflict, apply real pressure on Israel for a ceasefire. The editorial urges the President, Joe Biden, to apply real pressure on Israel for ceasefire. Answer is C. I have brought, based on the words we got on Saturday, though evening I did not take, I took in the morning. We got only 6 words. Based on the 6 words, 2 exercises based on exam topics, one synonyms, the other one fillers. What is the synonym for dissidents? Please answer immediately. Supporters, rebels, conformists, loyalists. This exercise is based on synonyms. One B, that is right. Choose a synonym for disenchantment. Here you can also, from in the editorial, we got the word dissidents. That also you have to remember. This also you have to remember. Choose a synonym for disenchantment. 1B, what is the word for enchantment, disillusionment, fascination, attraction, satisfaction? This also you have to choose synonym. Disenchantment is a negative word. Based on that, what is the answer? Disillusionment is the answer. Which word is a synonym for brazenly? Brazenly, what is a synonym? Shyly, audaciously, stealthily means secretly, cautiously means carefully. Shy, a simple word. Third one also, B, audaciously, openly, shamelessly, audaciously. Three also B. Identify the synonym for retract, withdraw, extend, reinforce, modify. Go to the fourth one. For C, no, no. For answer is A, withdraw. Retract means to take back or to withdraw. What is a synonym for tottering? Stable, trembling, robust, unwavering. All these words we got on Saturday, but we got only 6 words and one easy, unilateral, one sided. I haven't brought that one today. Tottering means trembling. Very good. Neetu Kumari, trembling. Here you see a sentence with a blank, no options, no clues, only clue contextual awareness. And you have to use the words you got in the editorial, not some other word. Here you have to use editorial words, the words we got on Saturday, and exercises are based on that. The leader's decision to proceed without consulting the team created tension among the members who felt left out of the decision making process. Understand the context and think of the right word. The word was used in the editorial on Saturday. Unanimous is not correct here. Unilateral. The leader's unilateral decision, one sided decision, not unanimous. No, no, if it had it been unanimous, no need to say the members felt left out. Please understand the context. Here you cannot use the word unanimous. Had it been unanimous, the members wouldn't have felt left out. He did not consult the members without consulting. Then how can it be unanimous? Unilateral. The leaders unilateral, exactly one sided. The old bridge, weakened by years of neglect, was as the engineers assessed its structural integrity. Understand, weakened by years of neglect. The old bridge. What happens to an old bridge? It becomes shaky. What is the word used? Already have got the word trembling. For trembling, what is the word? You have to use a word from the editorial. Here the answer is Tottering. We got that here. Tottering. Tottering means a trembling. Tottering means trembling or shaking. Exactly. The politician declared his intention to run for office again, despite the controversies surrounding his previous term. First, you have to read the sentence, understand the context, then you have to recollect the word used in the editorial. The politician declared his intention to run for office again despite the controversies surrounding his previous term. In spite of the fact that he became controversial, he declared his intention to run for office again. That means, in a way, shamelessly. What is the word used? Boldly and shamelessly. The right word here, brazenly. The politician brazenly declared his intention to run for office again, despite the controversies surrounding his previous term. Go to the last one. Exactly. Audaciously also you can say. But the word used in the editorial, brazenly. Audaciously synonym, but actual word brazenly. The group unhappy with the government's policies organized a protest against the ruling regime. Here it is dissidents, very good. But dissi, dissident, the dissident group, the word used in the editorial. You can also use disenchanted, disenchanted group. You can use that also. Dissident also you can use. Why not? That's all for today. Thanks for joining the morning session. And now on, it is going to be in the morning, 7 a.m., same day editorial, live session. About the mini mocks, wait for the thumbnail image, then you'll get all the details. Have a nice day. Thank you very much. And do remember to subscribe and share.